going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check here with some very, very initial thoughts coming out of TNA Hard to Kill. The show ended about 2 minutes ago, so I've got a couple of scratchy notes and the rest of this is going to come off the top of my head, so I'm also very tired. This was a hell of a show. This was an answer to a lot of questions that I posed to you guys in the preview. This was a lot of fun, if I'm honest. Couple issues that I had were just with the streaming service that I tended to use, which was the app formerly known as Fight, now known as Triller by Fight. Had a couple of problems with that, had a couple of freezing issues with that. Anybody that uses Fight, or I guess it's called Triller now, get in my comment section. Is it that sketchy that often, or is it just me? The other thing, because TNA is trying to push their new TNA Plus system, which I didn't subscribe to, I'm not going to lie. Apparently they got the kickoff, and what Fight got as the kickoff was sort of like the hype show, a replay of the hype show that they did on Thursday night, which is a bit shit, because it means I didn't see 3 of the matches. I didn't see Macklin versus Swan, which, I mean, I guess it is what it is. Macklin beat Swan, apparently. Crazy Steve beat Tommy Dreamer for the Digital Championship. Also didn't see that, but I gave you guys my thoughts on the Digital Championship in the preview. And apparently, where is it? I don't know. I don't know. Something else happened on the kickoff. I think the TNA Originals, which I predicted wrongly, the TNA Originals lost to Eddie Edwards and what the hell's his name? Not Matt Cardona, the other one, Brian Myers. So apparently there's a faction, this was announced on the kickoff as well, that, or what do they call it? They call it the pre-show, the preview. It's not the 0 hour like it is in AEW. But there's a new faction now, okay? And it's a bunch of people that I don't care about and that keep teaming up with various people. But basically, this new faction called The System is Moose, Brian Myers, Eddie Edwards, Alicia Edwards, and some football guy. And yes, that's all I'm going to say. It's not because of my feelings on that particular person. It's because that's what I feel about football. Let's be real for a minute. So I didn't get that, which is a bit of a bummer. I hope that's a one-off just to try and get people to get them on their new site, their new app, or whatever. Also, missed the interactions that were apparently funny, I didn't see them, between Top Dollar and Joe Hendry. I'm sure there will be a music video, if there's not a music video already, from Joe Hendry, and we will go from there. The last Joe Hendry match that I saw, cheap, I don't want to say cheap plug, because I'm just saying, hey, go check out this guy if you don't know who he is and you're living under a rock. Simon Miller. Simon Miller of What Culture fame, Simon Miller of BritWres fame, at the second last Impact show, Impact pay-per-view premium live event, whatever we're going to call them now, took on Joe Hendry in a really, really fun match. That was really cool for me, being a fan of Simon Miller and being late to the game on the Joe Hendry train. I think he's cool too. But I think Top Dollar, who is, I guess, at the end of his non-compete with WWE, if he's mixing it up with Joe Hendry, if they signed him to TNA, I mean, we got a lot of other signings to talk about, let's be real for a second. If they signed him to TNA, that could be fun. Joe Hendry versus Top Dollar, or I guess AJ Francis, or just Dollar. That could be fun. That could be like just a thing that they do and then everybody moves on with their life. But all this happened on the kickoff, which I didn't see because Fight's version of the kickoff was the hype show that we got on Thursday. I think that's really shit. I think you need to change that. I think especially on a show that was introducing us back to the era of TNA, you had one match that was built around, hey, you know, XYZ heels versus the TNA Originals, and you decided to put that on the kickoff. Could have been on the show. Not great. What is great is the presentation. We finally saw the arena. I saw like a little sneak preview that they dropped, that one photo taken from the turnbuckle of what the place looked like. First of all, the place was full. The place, the Casino Palms in Vegas there, full. Very, very full. I don't know how full it was. I don't know how many people can fit in that building, but it was very, very full. And they said numerous times, what the hell is his name? Tom Hannafin and Matthew Raywald consistently every time they talked about the attendance, every time they talked about social media engagement and buy rates and all that kind of thing, and they didn't do it that much. They were incredibly thankful to the fans in a way that didn't feel spoon-fed. Tom Hannafin is a bit of a dork, a bit of a, I don't want to say lovable loser, because he's not a loser, but he's just a very amiable guy, and he sounds genuine when he's excited about something, and he sounds genuine when he's talking directly to the fans as far as that goes. But apparently this is the biggest attendance that a TNA show has had in like 8 years. And that's pretty fucking cool, because it is very much a, and I'm not going to steal the gimmick from WWE, but this is like TNA day one. This sets the path going forward. You know, huge attendance. For that attendance, it has to be a bigger building. It's hard to tell with the way wrestling shows do camera cuts and whatnot. It looked great. They had a big open stageway at the beginning, and at the one side, there wasn't two of them, so we're not completely back to the old days, but they had the tunnel, and the tunnel made me incredibly happy. I don't know what to say. After that, you had Eric Young voicing a monologue about basically what I said in the kickoff about, you know, how people kind of use TNA as a punching bag, a punchline for a long time, and it's like, it's just those little guys in the corner. It's just those little guys in the corner. But if you do that long enough, you do eventually have to turn around and say, holy shit, they're still here. And you kind of have to give it to them. I mean, I don't have any problem giving it to them. I hope they raise themselves up. I mean, we have WWE. WWE is doing awesome. We need an alternative, though. And, yeah, the other guy's losing his mind a little bit. I would much rather sit down and have a drink with Scott D'Amore than I would sit down and have a drink with Tony Khan. Let's just put it that way. But, yeah, they had the tunnel. The tunnel was off to one side, so you had a really, really big stageway. A lot of the stageways of the Impact shows, going back to as recently as December for the Impact shows, they were good. They did very well with the space that they had, but it very much made it obvious that you were kind of in a claustrophobic setting. It is the one thing that NXT, you guys know me, you guys know I'm an NXT guy, it is the one thing that NXT struggles with in the Performance Center. You can't not feel like you're in a small building. And one of the things immediately that underlines that is the shortness of, like, the stage to the ring, and how big the stage actually is. And I think they did incredibly. They had a cool looking Tron with two smaller Trons up top. I thought it was really cool. All the announcers were in separate balconies of the building, and they weren't at ringside. I guess that was a space thing, but also it's a really cool, interesting place for us to see the commentators, and from their point of view, watching wrestling from a balcony has got to be a different perspective for them as well. Yes, I'm aware they're supposed to look at the monitors, they're not supposed to look at the ring, but I mean, you're up in the balcony and that's really cool. Eric Young came out and voiced over this monologue, and he sort of said it while he was marching out to the ring. Eventually, the rampway lit up, and you had all the talent there and whatever. And it was a rally cry. It was a hype thing for TNA, and, you know, we're still here. You and you and you and we and all of us and you fans. We are all TNA, and we are all hard to kill. And yes, I will say it for what it's worth. This was very, very reminiscent of the Barclays Center, TakeOver Brooklyn 1, the Triple H, it started as a whisper, we are NXT. It was very reminiscent of that speech, but at the same time, it's Eric Young, and it's so very uniquely Eric Young, and it's so genuinely Eric Young that it was just awesome. It really blows my mind that if you were going to have him do this to open the show, that you would have him lose on the pre-show. That's weird, but I can almost separate them out like they're two separate shows. So the place looked great. The heavy neon yellow aesthetic that they had going on throughout the night, from the entry tunnel to the rampway to the lighting to the ring ropes themselves. I don't know how I feel about the neon, because the old TNA aesthetic is that black and red and like almost gold yellow, that deep yellow, and it's sort of acting against that a little bit, but the colors of the pay-per-view were sort of like that bright blue and that bright yellow, so if it's for the pay-per-view, then whatever. I'm nailing down on all these things that probably nobody cares about, but it is important, because when it's a new show, it's not just what happens on the show that night, but what this show is telling you to expect for the future. So the things that don't matter do matter, if that makes sense. The one thing, and I have to be fair about this, I really do. I've got a lot of things that I could wring AEW's neck about, but one of them that is shit across the board, and I don't like it in any company. I don't like it when AEW does it. I don't like it. I didn't like it for that long time that NXT did it, and I didn't like it here. They have that ring level rampway, where the ramp is at the level with the ring, not level with the ground around the ring. It just makes a whole lot of things look really awkward. I know it in specific situations, specifically like high-flying matches, it provides for a lot of cool potential spots. I understand that. I can appreciate that. But as a whole, it makes the whole place feel... It makes it feel awkward to me as a viewer in a way that I can't really describe. But I want to say, before anybody comes and nails me to the mast, oh, well, you didn't like it when AEW did it. I guess it's okay if it's TNA. I said, no, I don't like it when AEW does it. I didn't like it when NXT did it. And I don't like it here. That's the only thing. It is literally the only thing, though. Now, I don't know if they're going to go to the 2 tunnels. I don't know if the tunnel was a one-night only thing for the nostalgic purpose. I really do like the tunnel. I really do. I really liked the old Impact Zone where you had one tunnel at each side of the arena, and people were entering from different sides of the arena. But for an aesthetic, for a, hey, this is what TNA is going to look like going forward, it was great. And if this is what it's going to look like for the tapings, which means this is what the next couple of weeks of TNA are going to look like, at least before they go to the next place, awesome. Awesome. From a presentation point of view, from Eric Young's introduction to the guys up in the balcony doing commentary and welcoming us to the show, from a presentation point of view, from the, okay, what am I looking at immediately when I turned on the show, everything was cool. And I've ranted on that for nearly 11 minutes, so let's get on to the next thing. WWE. TNA has a couple of really cool things. They have the X Division, they have the Women's Division, and they have signature matches like the Ultimate X. Let's put 2 of those together. Let's put the Women's Division in the Ultimate X again. And they made a point of saying that not only was this only the second, I think they said it was like the second ever Women's Ultimate X match, and only 2 women in this particular match have had experience in the match before, and hey, you know, the women never used to do this, and you know, it's about time, and all that fun, positive stuff. You had Giselle Shaw, Zaya Brookside, Jody Threat, Alicia Edwards, Danny Luna, and Giselle Shaw. I'm forgetting somebody. But Ultimate X matches are spot matches. I'm not going to go through every spot because that would be absolutely insane. And some of them we're doing this spot because this is an Ultimate X spot. It's same as like a cage match has specific spots. Ladder matches have specific spots, etc. But I do want to say, for something that only can happen in an Ultimate X match, you had Jody Threat, you guys know I'm a huge fan of Jody Threat, and Tasha Steelz, who's also pretty awesome, fighting on top of the turnbuckle because they have the trust that the Ultimate X is actually built upon to lean across as well. And for the 2 of them, specifically Tasha Steelz, to hit a cutter on Jody Threat off of the top turnbuckle to the outside on top of everybody else was a pretty fucking cool spot, let's be real. For me, who's only seen Zaya Brookside once or twice in the limited time that she was in NXT UK, this was a tremendous, tremendous showcase for her. She had a lot of fire-up spots in this match. She had a lot of times where she was the only person kicking ass in the match. Later on, we would find out why, because later on they took to social media and announced something that I already thought had happened, but it was that Zaya Brookside has signed with TNA. They did their version of the Is All Elite graphic, which I think is really cool, and it wasn't the only one we got tonight. Jody Threat, showing that she's a powerhouse, hit an F5 with 2 people on her shoulders. I didn't write down who those 2 people were because I'm an idiot, but apparently she calls the F5 the shove it, which is awesome and which is entirely on brand if you've ever seen a Jody Threat match. I love her weird energy, and yes, a lot of that comes from me being at Destiny shows, checking off your Spaz Phoenix bucket list. It's fine. Another one that I wasn't very familiar with until now, other than knowing that she was in Subculture, was Danny Luna, and holy fuck does she have a power game as well, tossing everybody around the ring, etc., etc., etc. We had a really wicked spot. It was almost Money in the Bank. It was almost TLC-esque when you had Jody Threat hand walking across the ropes, and Giselle Shaw springboards off the back of Danny Luna to spear Jody Threat in midair as she's hanging from the cable. I thought that was really cool. It reminds me of TLC, the spear scene around the world, etc. It was a really good spot. And then, to bring it all down, half the ladies are down, and Steels, Shaw, and Luna are all draped across the cables trying to make their way to the X. They actually did a really cool thing that they do in Money in the Bank a lot, is once they were all crawling on separate cables, they all got to the center, and they actually started using the X, the X as a weapon, because not only is it kind of like a Money in the Bank briefcase in the case that it doesn't look particularly light, it's also in the shape of an X, which means it has points. I don't know if they've ever used it as an actual weapon before, but I thought that was really cool. Eventually, Tasha Steelz falls, eventually Dani Luna falls, and Giselle Shaw is your ladies' Ultimate X winner, and she's the #1 contender to the Knockouts Championship, which we will talk about later. We got a replay of the Top Dollar Joe Henry stuff, although it didn't really say how it happened. It just said, yeah, these guys had a little bit of a scuffle in the ring. I guess it was when Top Dollar was supposed to show his music video. I thought this would have been a cool thing that they could have put on the actual show just to break things up a little bit, but that's absolutely fine. One of the matches I wasn't looking too forward to, and I'm pretty sure it was obvious when I spoke about it before, was Dirty Dango versus PCO. I mean, Dirty Dango's Fandango, PCO is PCO, PCO is Wrestling's Frankenstein, which is a lot of fun. I do like the sign in the crowd that said, "You're not Dirty Dango, you're Fandango," and then in brackets it said, "Tyler Breeze, come get your boy." I like that a lot. Dirty Dango came out with Alpha Bravo, and I don't know who the fuck Alpha Bravo is, and Brutus Kugliov, or whatever the hell it is. He's Vladimir Kozlov. Just like, he's jacked, steroided, like Hulk serum, you know, Weapon X Vladimir Kozlov. They have a good little bit of a match. I mean, they all remind us that PCO can do a moonsault, which is kind of terrifying. I've seen it in person. I've seen him fly through a door in the Don Kolov Arena. It's fine. Very, very quickly, the Dirty Dango entourage comes in, and they beat him up, and the match is written off pretty quickly. Rhino comes out to make the save, and then Santino Marella comes out to also announce Jake something, because now it's going to be a trios match, and the babyface team was PCO, Jake something, and Rhino. And they destroy the heels, and how? It wasn't just a squash match, it was like a comically squashed match. I don't mind this. I don't mind a little here and there. I knew you were going to get Santino on here at some point because he's the director of authority. I mean, here's the thing about me not watching it in the previous month or whatever. I don't know if Rhino's been gone, so if this is like an actual return for Rhino, that's really cool. Jake something is just, like I say, he's a comedically large, powerful dude who throws people. And I'm sure eventually we're going to get Vladimir Kozlov versus him in some kind of, like, weird big guy, big men slapping man meat, you know, the Big E special. It wasn't anything to write home about, I'm not going to lie, but it wasn't offensive either. It was just a bunch of silliness, and it's like, here's PCO. So the heel can say, "Oh wow, I'm fucked. It's PCO. Oh fuck, it's PCO and Rhino. Oh fuck, it's PCO and Rhino and Jake something." How many times am I fucked here? It wasn't terrible. It wasn't offensive, but like I say, nothing to write home about either. What was something to write home about was the impromptu Knockouts Tag Team Championship match that we got, because even on commentary, they sounded like they were getting ready to throw to another video package. When MK Ultra's music started to play, and on commentary, they were like, "Oh, what's going on here? What are the tag champs doing here? Like, they're not on the card, whatever." MK Ultra, for those of you that don't know, is Master Slamovich and Killer Kelly, who are both fucking amazing. I'm like, oh, are they going to bring out some, like, random baby faces? Because they're kind of healed, they're kind of intense, they're kind of spooky wooky, and not everybody's cup of tea. So who are we going to have against them? Are they going to have to drop their titles to somebody lame? And no, instead of that, it was the return of Decay. And if you've ever heard me talk about Impact, fucking love Decay, love Rosemary, love Havoc, love me some more spooky wooky shit. It's all good. So Decay versus MK Ultra as an unannounced title match on this show. Give me all the weird shit. Give me weird Rosemary, give me weird Havoc, give me Killer Kelly, who I've met, who's an actual sweetheart, which is the hilarious part. Masha Slamovich, who's also awesome and a little out there. This was one of my favorite matches of the night, and it wasn't even announced. I wish I had had a chance to put it in my preview. I would have been ridiculously excited about, but I'm equally excited that we got this as a bonus. It says something about your card already when this is something you can keep in your back pocket as a bonus. MK Ultra are really cool once everything gets going and breaks down into a 4-person brawl, because MK Ultra have this really cool habit of using each other as weapons. Havoc is a powerhouse. Havoc powerbombing and suplexing both women by herself is I wouldn't fuck with her. Like, what did I say about Jordan Grace the other day? I'm pretty sure if I tried to fuck with her, she would fold me up neatly and stow me in the overhead compartment. It's fine, don't worry about it. And Rosemary's just awesome. Rosemary is awesome for the same reason Abaddon's awesome, for the same reason that Shotzi Blackheart is awesome, for the same reason that, I don't know, Darby Allin, Crazy Steve, all the weird shit that I like is awesome. She just is. The Matrix shit that she does, she falls on her back with her knees bent, and Killer Kelly crawls over her in a, let's be honest, very, very suggestive and for the boys spot, until she matrixes up and Killer Kelly matrixes down, and it like reverses the thing. And yes, that's for the guys out there, and I'm not even going to pretend that it's not, but it's also like, human beings aren't supposed to bend like that. So, you know, horny dudes in the audience aside, here's your kudos for legitimately doing something that would break most people. All four of these ladies beat the shit out of each other. This is not a Barbie doll match. DK put a big smile on my face with this huge sit-out powerbomb cutter combination. It almost looks like a better version of... Do you remember when Randy Orton and Batista were in the triple threat with Daniel Bryan, and they tried to turn the Batista bomb and the RKO into one move? This looks like a more successful version of that. I didn't catch the name of it, if it has a name, but DK are your new Knockouts Women's Champions. Second title change of the night, if you if you choose to acknowledge the kickoff where Tommy Dreamer dropped the Digital Media Championship to Crazy Steve. But Crazy Steve's apparently a heel. Crazy Steve was not out there with Decay, neither was Black Taurus. So I think DK is just the name for this tag team now, and that's absolutely fine. We went through some other quick, like, hey, here's what you missed on the kickoff. Crazy Steve becoming the digital champion. Macklin defeating Rich Swann, which is awesome. I guess he had a promo in the back that's just... It's another version of that, oh, new year, new me, 2024 is going to be my year, etc., except it's him doing his best John Bernthal Punisher impression, which is absolutely fine. We then had Scott D'Amore come out, and I love the fact that Scott D'Amore comes out with his headset even though he's got a microphone. Never don't do that. Never don't do that. It had all the energy of when they first made the announcement and he stood in the ring with all the originals and said TNA is fucking back, and then he made fun of himself for swearing for like 2 weeks. It was great. And he introduces, and I'm not going to try and pronounce this guy's name because I don't want to be rude, but he's the CEO of AAA Lucha Wrestling, and they show a brief video package of a couple of times that TNA and AAA have sort of collaborated in the past, had crossovers, had, I think for the most part, AAA and TNA are why the multiverse of matches events happened, which were like really, really small versions of like the Forbidden Door concept. But he's got this guy out there, the CEO of AAA, to properly sign the contract for an official partnership between AAA and TNA. And that's awesome. I don't know anything about AAA, but Scott D'Amore really did go hard on the, like, we're going to come out here and we're going to show you guys what happens when, pettiness and bitterness and tribalism get put to one side and we just put together the best matches possible. And I'm like, fuck me, yes. Absolutely, yes. If that's not daring AEW and WWE to do a crossover show, I don't know what is. This is like the third guy like striking up at the other two, and I couldn't be happier for it. Like I'll say it again, right? Like, I'm a huge fan of Triple H. I would most definitely sit down and have a fucking Smirnoff with Triple H. I won't lie and say otherwise. But, like, Scott D'Amore or Tony Khan, who do you want to have a drink with? Who do you think, who are you more confident isn't going to flip the table or spend all this time on Twitter making sure Jinder Mahal isn't owning his ass? I mean, Scott D'Amore, again, is much like Tom Hannafin. It's just like, you want his thing to work. You want his thing that's trying to make everybody happy to work so that everybody can be happy. The dude's intense, but he's intense like oh my god, I'm doing this thing and it's really cool. And I like that about Scott D'Amore. I really do. He doesn't take cheap shots at people. He takes cheap shots at situations like, hey, if we all, if we all held hands and sang Kumbaya and worked together, we could do, excuse me, we could all do really cool things. I said on Friday, somewhere, it was on somebody else's stream, I said, imagine if TNA, AEW, and WWE got together and did sort of like their own three-way Forbidden Door thing. And here's the two matches I suggested. And it wasn't like Roman Reigns versus Kenny Omega. It was like, okay, on the one hand, I said, from a wrestling point of view, give me Josh Alexander versus Cesaro versus Chad Gable. Because that match would fucking own. Give me a ladies showcase. And here's the ladies showcase that I came up with. Partially, this was spurred on by the fact that Deonna Purrazzo is now in AEW. Kind of bummed that she didn't come to WWE, but that's just me. I said, what if you got Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair, and you put them up against Deonna Purrazzo and Chris Statlander, and you put them up against MK Ultra? I said MK Ultra because they were the TNA tag champions at the time. This was obviously before this. But I'm like, those are matches you could have. Those are matches you can have. We're seeing right now Triple H is like reaching out to New Japan, or not New Japan, but like all the other, like the other company in Japan that I can't think of the name of right now because I'm really tired. You can see that they've worked with TNA. They brought current TNA Women's Champion Mickie James to participate in the Royal Rumble. Gave her TNA music, let her be her TNA self, let her bring out her TNA belt. They traded Christian for Ric Flair for their respective Hall of Fames and all that. Triple H isn't Vince. Triple H, I think, will work with people to a certain degree. And the only one that would stop that show, that mythical show that I've got in my head of TNA versus WWE versus AEW, honest to God, I truly believe the only person that would stop that match from happening would be Tony Khan. Because he's got such drugged up, insecure, small dick fucking energy. He went after Jinder Mahal. Who has even spoken about, like, go back 2 weeks, who was even talking about Jinder Mahal? That's not a dig at Jinder Mahal, but I'm just, like, why? Yes, the guy gets a pop when he comes to Toronto because he goes on radio shows and says really nice things about Toronto. But, like, why is this your problem? Why? Talk about the fact that people are beating each other up in your locker rooms. Talk about the fact that you're booking stories around anti-Semitism. Talk about the fact that you don't have your fucking head screwed on right. Talk about all the issues that arise from you bringing Ric Flair onto your show, featuring him properly, and having him chop Will Hobbs. I'm not even a Will Hobbs guy, but come the fuck on. Anyways, Scott D'Amore calling all this out, like, hey, this is what happens when people can actually be adults and work together, was great. Having the guy from AAA, as I say, I'm not going to try and pronounce his name. I don't want to be any more disrespectful than I absolutely have to be. Having him come out and make his announcement first in Spanish and then in English. And I think he said something to the effect of, I want to bring more Lucha Libre to America, which is clearly what's going to happen with this partnership. But also he says, I want to bring the flair of Lucha Libre and match it with the intensity of TNA. So he's like, here's what I have to offer, but here's what I know Scott and his guys have to offer as well. I thought that was a very, very well stated thing. And they actually signed the contract for us all to see, and that was really cool. And then immediately they went to, here's a prime example of what can happen when teams work together, because El Hijo del Vikingo was in the next match because it was Vikingo versus Kushida versus Chris Sabin for Chris Sabin's NXT, or, oh my god, I'm going to get my acronyms right, TNA X Division Championship. By the way, did I mention on the kickoff that the new belts are fucking awesome? Because the new belts are fucking gorgeous. I mean, the match speaks for itself. I didn't take any notes. I did not take any notes on this match. The match speaks for itself. Kushida, Vikingo, Sabin, you know what these guys can do. Fucking insane, like, here's your spots match. But, like, that made sense. When they had the trio of them in the center of the ring trading arm drags, in a way that was like, anything you can arm drag, I can arm drag better. When you consider how ridiculous some of the stuff that these guys do is, for them to go head-to-head on something as basic as an arm drag was just diversion from the norm enough to make it really cool. It would be like making a headlock exchange interesting. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. This is the match. I'm sorry, and I know it's for the spots, and I know it because it makes things different, and it makes the spots different, and whatever. This is the match that underscored for me how awkward having that ring-level entranceway is. Because a lot of high-flying stuff happens in the spots outside the ring. And, yeah, I don't like it. I'm not gonna sit here and dissect it other than I just fucking don't like it. Back in the ring, eventually, Sabin hits the cradle shock, and he's still your champion. He's a 10-time NXT champion. And I love the fact that they underscored this in a really cool way. Because Matthew Raywalt on commentary, they were talking about all the brand new belts and whatever. And they said it was a very unique thing because they went from being NWA TNA to being TNA. I think at some point, if you look down the lineage, it went from being the X Championship to the X Division Championship. That's something worth noting. But then they were GCW, then they were Anthem for a while, and then they were just Impact Wrestling, and now back to TNA. So every time that something like that is happening, obviously they've had to make new belts. And he said something along the lines of, only one championship has a champion that has held every iteration of it, and that person is Chris Sabin. Chris Sabin has held every iteration, every version of the TNA / Impact / GCW / Anthem X Division Championship that there has ever been. And that's really cool, because that's not really a stat that most people can duplicate. It's really not. I should say on commentary as well, they were giving us history lessons throughout the night, out the fucking ass. I did not write them all down. Another cool person that I've never seen before was Alex Hammerstone, who took on Josh Alexander. And for the sake of it, for the sake of this match, I'm just going to call them Josh and Alex, because Alexander and Alex, and the way my shorthand is, really, really fucks that up. So it's just going to be Josh and Alex. I mean, Hammerstone is huge. Josh is the technical guy. He's got that smiling, sarcastic, all right, let's fucking do this look on his face that Josh Alexander gets, which is awesome. It's almost taunting, though. It's like, bring me the competition. Sort of like both of them loving the competition. No rivalry between the two of them. Apparently, again, going by what they said on commentary, these guys have only fought once before, and it went to a draw. So they're still at 0-0 if they decide to turn this into a feud. Hammerstone's fucking huge. And he just throws Alexander around, and Alexander's not a small guy by any stretch of the imagination. Josh, being the technical guy, quickly turns it into telling a story about Hammerstone's leg, which goes on throughout the entire match. There was a backdrop on the apron that looked particularly gross, and it sort of announced, okay, we're going into the brawling outside of the ring portion of this match. This wicked series of running boots by Josh Alexander that don't even take Hammerstone a step back, let alone taking him off of his feet, and it quickly gets answered by this gorilla side slam that looked like it fucking wrecked. Josh Alexander goes for the ankle lock, a couple of attempts at the ankle lock, but it was really kind of like vicious the way he went for the ankle lock. It didn't quite work, so he rolled him on his belly and stomped the fuck out of the back of his knee before he went back for the thing again. Alex goes for, I guess, what's called the Nightmare Pendulum. It's a vertical suplex into a front slam. Josh Alexander gets away from the pin by rolling out of the ring, selling the fact that, like, I couldn't exactly get up right now, but I can roll away. Apron Death Valley Driver and a TKO in the ring by Alex, but a C4 spike by Josh Alexander on the much bigger opponent gets the win. I'm a Josh Alexander guy. Very, very quickly after I started going to the Destiny shows, yes, check it out for Spaz Phoenix Bucket List, it's fine. When I went to Destiny, Pete Dunne, you guys have heard me say this story before, I was brought to Destiny for the first time because Pete Dunne was defending that championship against John Morris, and I don't remember what they called him at the time. He was Johnny something. But very, very quickly after that, John Morrison obviously didn't win. Pete Dunne held the belt for a while. There are pictures floating around about with me and Pete Dunne and the Destiny Championship belt, which is a beautiful, gorgeous fucking belt, by the way. But at the same time, while I was watching wrestlers that I knew and getting to know wrestlers that I didn't know, I was getting to know that at the Don Kolov Arena, like, Josh Alexander was basically their AJ Styles. Like, he was Mr. Destiny for these people. I got to see him win that title off of Pete Dunne, and he's been the champion, or he was the champion for a good part of, like, when I really started becoming a fan of Destiny. So I'm never not gonna pull for him, and I didn't know who Alex Hammerstone was until just now. So this is a win for me on, like, every front possible. Going forward into the next match, this wasn't a title match, this was an exhibition, and hey, guys like me, this is who Alex Hammerstone is, and he gets to look really awesome before Josh Alexander drops him on his fucking heed. But the next match, bunch of people we know, fatal four-way for the tag team championships. And I will say this, put all my tribal shit to one side for a second, put all of my WWE versus AEW shit to the side. WWE, AEW, NXT, ROH. You better get your shit together when it comes to tag team wrestling, because TNA is going to come and smoke all of you. All of you. Because the match was initially set up to be ABC versus the Rascals versus Speedball and Trent Seven versus the debuting Grizzled Young Veterans. Now, we didn't have Trent Seven because he was fucked over by travel issues, because apparently weather is just shit everywhere. I mean, I won't lie to you guys. I went to the movies the other day to go see, what was it? Night Swim, which is an incredibly average, cheesy horror movie, which was exactly what I needed on Friday. And when I went in, it was summer, and when I came out, it was winter, but thus is life living just outside of Toronto, Canada. But apparently weather's kind of shit everywhere. So Trent Seven wasn't there. Trent Seven was replaced at the last minute by Laredo Kid. So, I don't know, Speedball and Laredo, the Speedball kids, and the Grizzled Young Veterans being in this was really cool. First of all, the Grizzled Young Veterans have signed with TNA, so that's awesome. Grizzled Young Veterans stick out of this match in every way possible, because they're new to the company, point blank, this is their debut. Because they're new to the company, they're the only ones in the match that don't really have a rivalry with one of the other teams in the match, and they're two brawlers in a match with 6 other high flyers. So they are the odd thumbs in every conceivable way. The more the match went on, the more I thought the Grizzled Young Veterans were going to be handed the titles on their... I don't mean handed, but you know what I mean. The Grizzled Young Veterans were going to pick up those titles on their debut. Didn't happen. Spoiler alert. Speedball Mike Bailey and Laredo Kid almost score the upset victory when Laredo Kid hits somebody with a really weird kick, and Mike Bailey goes for that off the top rope spinning stomp to the back that he calls the Ultimo Weapon. Bailey, Laredo, and the Grizzled Young Veterans all fall to the outside, and for a while you do get just 2-on-2 ABC versus the Rascals, which is really... I hate to say it this way because I don't want to take a shot at the Grizzled Young Vets. I don't want to take a shot at Bailey or Laredo or Trent Seven if you've been able to be there. But the real rivalry is Rascals versus ABC. Rascals versus ABC is the rivalry. Rascals versus ABC is, I think, the match a lot of people wanted to see. And when it was just the two of them in the ring, the crowd really came up for it and kind of sealed in my point. So the two of them went at each other for a little bit, but ABC hit the art of the finesse and the fold and the pin, got the win, retained their championships. ABC are still your tag team champions. ABC, for those of you that don't know or just listening for the curiosity's purposes, ABC is Ace Austin and Chris Bay. It's what's left of the TNA contingent of the Bullet Club that was started by Jay White before he went over to AEW. So yeah, I'll say it once again, TNA were the ones that introduced me to Jay White. Apparently, on the tapings tomorrow night, there's a match between Okada and Ospreay, which is the opposite situation. AEW introduced me to Will Ospreay, and I'm going to look forward to the Ospreay match in TNA probably this coming week, because now we get back to weekly shows. ABC are great tag team championships. The Rascals are there. It's really cool to see Zachary Wentz succeeding somewhere after he got fucked. F-U-C-K-E-D, capitals, fucked out of his position in NXT, because that's what happened. Let's be real for a second. the team that they made at the last pay-per-view last month of Speedball Mike Bailey and Trent Seven is just weird, and I want to see where it goes. And obviously the Grizzled Young Veterans, the only thing I can say about that, the only miss they had, was not having Zach Gibson cut a promo on the way to the ring and doing the soon to be recognized as the greatest tag team, whatever the fuck he does. I can't do accents, you guys know that. They tried to do it on commentary, and Tom Hannafin just made himself sound like a bit of a dork. Jordynne Grace versus Trinity for the Knockouts Championship. I really tried to get into this. I really did. But it was so hard to get into this because it was sort of like, okay, let's see how this match goes and we'll see if the rumors of Naomi coming back to the Rumble are true. Like, that's what it is. And the bummer about that is Jordynne Grace having another run with that championship isn't the most exciting, oh my god, brand new page of TNA thing to do either. So, the bigger thing, and we got another signing, and it was shown earlier on in the night, a woman's foot getting out of the limo, and I'm sure some weirdos online were saying, I wish I was the shoe, or doing some other kind of weirdness. Yes, I stole that joke from What Culture, don't worry about it. But we see who it is on the outside of the ring, sitting there with George Iceman Menendez. I didn't pronounce his last name correctly, that's terrible of me. George Iceman used to run Destiny. George Iceman gave me, on more than one occasion, free tickets to Impact shows that were happening at the Don Kolov because he knew I spent so much money there on Destiny stuff and Destiny tickets or whatever. Really, really cool dude. Got to talk to him at the Impact show in December, the Final Resolution show. Really, really, really good dude. Cool to see him on TV. But he's there with, I guess, TNA's newest acquisition. We know her as Dana Brooke from WWE, but her name, and I don't know how this works linguistically speaking, her name is Ash by Elegance. And she's out there with Iceman Menendez. I'm fucking that up. I really, really am. I have to see it written down to sound it out because I'm an asshole. Anyways, if Iceman is her manager, by any stretch of the imagination, I'll be super happy for him, and it's really cool to see her show up somewhere else. Immediately you have people on Twitter saying, oh, I guess it is really old school TNA, they're just picking up all of WWE's cast-offs. I bet you watch AEW, don't you? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. The match had a weird vibe. The match had a very neither one of us really hate each other vibe. It was intense with the physical stuff that they did, but it wasn't intense from either of them, in my opinion, if that makes sense. There was more than one time, because Jordynne Grace is the power, I was going to say the power guy, she's the power girl in the match, and Trinity is the athletic, a little bit more jumpy, a little bit more acrobatic person. And there was a couple of times where she went and did a bunch of flips to get ready to go in to do something, and she kind of noped it, or Jordynne Grace kind of noped it. She kind of did like a Samoa Joe, but without walking away, she just kind of stepped back and smiled, and it had the same vibe to it. Don't get me wrong, this is not a dig at either woman, but the way it came off on TV was like that famous scene in Indiana Jones where the guy like really, really like dramatically swings his sword around, and Indiana Jones is like, okay, bang. I think that's the scene that he couldn't do a sword fight in because he was legitimately sick on set that day, so they made it a punchline instead. There were a couple of matches, there was a couple of moments in this match that felt like that. And it kind of made me laugh along with Jordynne Grace, and it kind of made me think, well, wow, Trinity, you were kind of just made to look like a dork there for a little bit. Now, I will say, Jordynne Grace hit her with an awesome-looking jackhammer on the outside. They called it the Juggernaut jackhammer because that's her nickname. But wicked jackhammer on the floor by Grace. Back in the ring, hit a wicked muscle buster. Big fan of Samoa Joe. Love to see the muscle buster. Love to see the muscle buster when it doesn't break anybody's neck also as well. So that's fine. Trinity did her own version of MJF's Heat Seeker on the apron, and all credit to her. That looked fucking amazing. Jordynne Grace powers out of Trinity's submission move, hits her with a back fist, hits her with the Juggernaut driver, because, yes, let's attach the nickname to more than one thing. Imagine if we had the Batista bomb, but then we had the Batista kick, and the Batista punch, and the Batista headbutt, and the Batista lock. Like, that's kind of what they were doing here. Not her fault. Juggernaut Driver is awesome. The spinning back fist was awesome. Jordynne Grace is your new champion, which I'm pretty damn sure confirms that Trinity is going to be at the Royal Rumble, and she's going to steal somebody's spot at WrestleMania, which is very, very unfortunate, unless it's a one-off, which I doubt it is. They couldn't get one, so they got the other. It's fine. We don't need to talk about it. I don't have anything against Naomi. I just don't care about Naomi, and don't fill my screen with people I don't care about when there's lots of people that I do care about that will lose a spot. On the upside, at least she's not going to come in and break anybody's neck. It's absolutely fine. You know what else was kind of not lacking in quality, but lacking in, like, why am I not more invested in this particular match, was Alex Shelley versus Moose, because I knew what the match was going to be before it started. It was going to be Moose powering him around, and it was going to be Shelley either outspeeding him, out-quicking him, out-techniquing him, or whatever the case may be until the end. Both of them had sort of entourages that came with them partially out the way to the ring. If you've seen what they've done on SmackDown a lot in the last little while, with people with factions, who the factions come out to the ramp with them, and then they go back, and then the person comes to the ring. They did this for both of these guys as well. The System came out with Moose, so Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers and Alicia Edwards and that football guy, who I'm not going to look up because I don't care about football. But to counter that, Shelley came out with Sabin and Kushida, his teammates in the Time Splitters, Time Machine faction, to give him one last pat on the back before the match started as well. So I think it was at least equal. It was equal in the fact that they both had backup, and it's equal in the fact that both of their backups went away. I thought that was really, really nicely done, paying a little bit of homage to the fact that Moose has a new faction, Shelley has an already existing faction. We're going to acknowledge both of those, and they get to wave at the crowd one more time. Awesome. For a start, Moose, who's like looking down at Shelley because he's fucking massive, offers him a handshake, and while Shelley had a water bottle during his entrance, he kept a little bit of it in his mouth, so no shake. You get a mist instead to start the match. Moose kills Shelley a whole lot. Shelley starts telling an arm story. Much like Josh Alexander being the smaller guy against Alex Hammerstone started telling a leg story, Shelley started telling an arm story, including but not limited to Moose going to the outside, eating the post, and then eating a flatliner on the floor. I think Alex Shelley calls the flatliner the shell shock, because puns. The System and Time Machine both make their way out. They both brawl with each other, and they both brawl back to the back one more time. As they're on the ramp, once again, they keep teasing that there's going to be some massive, like, head-breaking thing that happens on the ramp that doesn't really happen. But then Shelley falls off the side of the ramp with an armbar driver to Moose. They both make their way back into the ring. A bunch of times Shelley goes for the shell shock, and Moose, who's had his arm worked on the whole match, reverses and wins with a spear on that side. That's me being picky, but it's also a thing. And then Shelley leaves because he's lost, and the faction, the System, come out to celebrate with Moose, except they stay on the rampway, and Moose is by himself in the ring because a new Tron hits. A new Tron, because we've already got the Grizzled Young Veterans that have signed. We've already got Zaya Brookside, who signed just tonight, apparently. We've already got... What else could we add to the mix? How about a big red and black Tron in big capital letters that says NIC fucking Nemeth? Dolph Ziggler arrived shortly after he just made his arrival in New Japan, apparently. But he arrived, and he showed up in the ring, and Moose tried to go for him. He ate a super kick. He ate a zigzag, which I'm pretty sure won't be called a zigzag anymore because he's not Ziggler. And then he ran out into the crowd and sort of rocked out with the crowd. And he had a little bit of a moment there where he couldn't figure out where to rip his shirt. He rips off his shirt. Underneath his shirt, there's a TNA shirt. He's in the crowd. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking, let's turn shit up. From the minute that he stared down Moose, even before the super kick, even before the zigzag, the crowd was nuts. For this crowd, I will say, It's a smaller crowd. It's not a stadium. It's not an arena. But for this building, the crowd popped fucking massive. The holy shit chants were there. The holy shit chants got louder with the super kick, got louder with the zigzag, got louder as he dipped out of the ring and went to celebrate with the fans. Went ballistic when he tore off his shirt, had the TNA shirt up underneath. And even Tom Hannafin on commentary said, "Oh my God, Nick Nemeth is in TNA. So let's fucking go. We are going to put that belt on," I'm going to have to get used to calling him Nick. "We're going to put that belt on Nick Nemeth right fucking stat now. If they do it this week on the tapings, I wouldn't care." Because, here's the thing. Alex Shelley got embarrassed tonight, or they will play it up, because he played it up in an interview before this pay-per-view happened, that he was carrying the legacy of the old and the hopes of the new TNA on his shoulders by being that champion. He's going to take this loss hard. He's going to come back and want to get his championship back. And for the love of everything, please give me Alex Shelley versus Nick Nemeth in a world title feud. Come on, we can do that. That's fucking good. It's really fucking good. So, awesome matches. One person had to miss the show because of weather. That's not too shabby. The problems with the kickoff are minor. The presentation is awesome. The crowd was bigger than it's been in 8 fucking years. We've got a deal signed between TNA and AAA to sort of collaborate and work together and do shows together and trade talent and all that fun stuff. We got Xia Brookside officially signed, even though I thought that had already happened. We got the Grizzled Young Veterans in there. We've got, I'm going to have to keep looking at my page, Ash by Elegance there, and Nick Nemeth just stared down the brand new champion that had been champion for about 10 seconds. I think we got off to a pretty good start. If this is TNA's day one, we're going to have a lot of fun. I'm really, really interested in what all of you guys have to say. Did you watch the show? Did you wait to hear my 2 cents? Which would be weird because there are much better sources out there. But this is what I thought. Of course I loved it. The show ended, like I say, like an hour ago now that I've been talking for so long. I'll probably have more concrete thoughts in the next couple of days. I might review the first actual episode of TNA. We'll see how that goes. But yeah. I'm glad I watched it. I don't feel like I wasted my time, and it wasn't like ordering an AEW pay-per-view where I get an hour of a basketball match that I didn't ask for. Thank you, Rogers Video. Thank you, Canadian Cable Systems. Thank you, AEW and Tony Khan, who don't give a shit about anything other than Tony Khan's stash. Yeah. I'm counting down now, realistically, to when either NXT or TNA outsell an AEW pay-per-view. And I'm going to laugh, because I'm no longer shy about being a terrible person. That's how I'm going to sign this off. Nice and bitter and sarcastic. And it's 2024, or New Year, same me. I've been Spaz, your YWC reality check. Talk up there, talk down there. I can't even speak. Start a conversation. Leave all the combinations down in the box below. I've been Spaz. Yeah, I fucked up the exit because I'm really, really fucking tired, so I'm tagging it like that.